Okay, Patrick. Wow, nice job. This is really cool. I like what you've done as far as picking the elements, that star or whatever it is, planet, moon in the background, lighting up the scene. Really, really cool. It's very bright, so that is going to be one of our primary light sources, if not the primary light source. That's something to think about. Um, cool composition, the way you've got all your elements arranged. So all of that is really good. There is really, aside from the lighting, which we have to think about a little bit, what would the lighting do to this? So let's look first at this element right here and see about what would happen. I think my guess, and it's because I've been a photographer for quite a while, would be that you would end up with a rim light on this, which would mean that the edge closest to the moon there would be lit more than just about anything else. I'm gonna copy and paste all of this to a new layer. Okay, and that might make it a little easier to kind of select this. There we go. All right, cool. So now I've got a really quick selection of this tower, and that's all I need from that layer. So I'm going to toss that in the trash. And this time I'm going to just click that over. I'm just moving that a little bit, and I may want to select, modify, and feather that to a few pixels and get rid of that. So now I've just got this teensy tiny little sliver of the tower right there. All right. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go into curves and just brighten it way, way, way up. And you see that gives me an edge there that makes it look like that light is hitting the far side and wrapping around just a little bit because this is at an angle. You could certainly do that at a, if you wanted to do a harder edge, I think that might be good. Modify feather, do 5 instead of 15, and then poof, off that goes. And then again, back to curves and just bring that up. And that's a little bit less. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. Okay, so there's a bright edge for that. And then think about that being our light source. So we're going to have shadows on, for this guy, his shadow should be back here instead of there. And these people should have a shadow, and maybe that's about it at this point. Okay, and this part of the building too would be lit. So I would do the same thing here. Take the entire thing, copy it to that layer, and then just select everything, put it over a little bit, and I'm just going to undo that. Whoops. There we go. And just leave that because I just showed you that technique on the tower. So let's see. This one. All right, I'm gonna copy it. I would come in here and maybe get rid of that shadow. Just clone it right out. Again, you'd be zooming in here and being really careful. But there's that one, and then you could come in with a layer on top and use your black paintbrush, or you could try doing a drop shadow. Let me come in here, use the magic wand, not the magic wand, the quick selection tool, and I'm gonna come off there. I want to see if I can keep the top of his walking stick there. Okay, so that is going to be off on its own layer. I don't need to make a drop shadow for this because it is my drop shadow already. All I have to do is lock the layer and fill it with black, and then bring it down to the base and bring it like this, and then turn it like so, like that, maybe a little bit more. Okay, drop the opacity till it looks good. And I'm gonna make that, before I do that, I'm gonna make that a smart object because I wanna put a smart filter on it. The filter would be blur, Gaussian blur. I'm gonna put the maximum amount of blur that I would wanna see on that shadow on the whole thing at this point. So maybe something like that. And now I'm going to take that smart blur, put a gradient on that so that as it's closer to his body, it's sharper. Now I could start out here so it does something like that. All right, cool. And then move this over a little bit and put a layer mask on it because I don't want that little kind of duck toe sticking out there. And again, just taper that shadow off to however I need it to be. It's just a piece of black painted on there, remember? So I can edit, I can edit and change it however I'd like to change it. Very, very malleable. Okay, if I want to change the opacity, I can do that. If I want to change the blend mode, I can do that as well. So that you can get a shadow that looks much more like you would think a shadow should look in that situation. Okay, and then maybe even stretch it out a little long shadow since it's late in the day. Same thing over here, kind of do that. All right, smart filter, gradient. I'm on the layer mask right now, so I'm blending that shadow off. I'm trying just a few things. Notice I don't have to go back and start all over again. The gradients will the black to white gradient will overwrite, so you don't have to undo and then redo. So, okay, now the key to this whole thing to making it look like it really goes together is making the lighting match. You've got more or less daylight lighting over here, and you've got very late in the day or very early in the morning lighting over in this section. So we need to create a consistent mood for this thing. So what we're going to do is go down here to something called color lookup. There's a whole bunch of presets in here, and we can come in here and talk about crisp warm. That's one option. I could talk to you about futuristic bleak. Ooh, that's kind of dull and awful. Just kind of go through these a little bit, and I think soft warming might be a good one. Teal orange. See how everything gets coated with a layer of this kind of a filter that's going through it. So soft warm is kind of nice. Horror blue might be something to think about, although it's not going to get the blue there very well. Crisp warm, edgy amber. That's kind of a cool thing. Remember, we've got an opacity setting here, so you don't have to have it at full strength if you don't want, but that gives it an overall consistency with the separate pieces that you've used here. I think I used a different one when I kind of played with it earlier. So there is, yep, there's the one, another one that I suggest, and right there, there's a different one. So a couple of different versions of this, but that's all under image adjustment layers, adjustment layers and color lookup. That's color lookup table. LUT is what this, you'll see it referred to also, LUT, capital L, capital U, capital T, look up tables. So what they are, and you can save your own too, what they are basically like filters that Photoshop allows you to use, lighting filters, and it makes your lighting look much more consistent. So I am gonna say that that really is just about all this one needs. If I look at this one and do a color lookup table for this one, and go to edgy amber, Cool, huh? Looks pretty cool. Um, Interesting, soft warming. You can add one on top of the other, obviously, since that's what I'm doing. And each one has its own kind of look about it and gives you a whole different mood. So, Edgy Amber, kind of a cool looking one. Okay, so just some hints there on things that you might try to make things look a little bit more like they were shot at the same time. So there's your original. There's one version that I did. There's another version that I did. So you can see they're very different, but they still go together a little bit better than that, where you've got a very neutral light here and a very, very warm light over here. So good job, though. Really, really cool. A lot of really good selecting there. I like the way you put things together. Nice choice. Very good job, Patrick.